The South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC's board, has admitted that the broadcaster breached its editorial policies over a paid interview with Social Development Minister Bathabile Dlamini. In the statement, the broadcaster claimed a payment of 149,000 rand, which was considered by the News and Editorial Committee, but was not received yet and will not be invoiced. The board says the broadcaster did not comply with its own editorial policies on sponsorship of programs. The SABC will be publishing a new draft editorial policy for further public comment. There are reports that to put the amount at 500,000 rand. The balance was apparently used for production costs and paid directly to the production company. And joining us over the phone line is SABC spokesperson Kaiza Khanyaho, and we also have in studio Lumka Olifant, Bathabile Dlamini spokesperson, and she joins us in studio. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Khanyaho. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the SABC has admitted a breach in its editorial policies over this paid interview. Can you just explain where and how the breach happened?
Our editorial policies are clearly saying that if there is a program that is sponsored, we need at the beginning and at the end of the program, we need to indicate to the viewers that it is a sponsored program. And in this particular instance, this was clearly specified in the editorial policy, and we, from our side, did not do that as we were supposed to.
And what remedial measures is the state broadcaster taking over this matter?
I didn't hear that.
What are the remedial measures that the state broadcaster will be taking over this matter?
Firstly, we are not a state broadcaster, we are a public service broadcaster. But what we have decided to do is that at the present moment, we are busy dealing with the review of the editorial policy. And because we are busy with that, we are going to make sure that we tighten up the areas that are dealing with sponsorships and make sure that there is no gray areas that can allow our employees to do things without following the proper processes. Secondly, we will make sure that all the people in the organization, including for entertainment programs, are in a position where they are aware of what needs to be done in terms of editorial policies, and they should not flout them. And thirdly, we have also, the board has also agreed that we are not going to bill GCIS for this particular amount of 149,000 rand, and as such, we will not invoice as we are supposed to invoice. Therefore, if we do not invoice, they will not be able to pay us.
All right, I'm going to come into studio as we are joined by Bathabile Dlamini spokesperson, Lumka Olifant. Thank you very much for joining us here at AN7.
Thank you for having me.
Just, can you take us through how does it work when a media house conducts an interview with your department?
I think now, for me, we need to have a bigger discussion as media and government communicators, because one, there are certain things that are happening in terms of strategy, in terms of development communication, in terms of issues that media don't have the resources, number one. How then do we try to get them to cover our stories? For me, you know that sometimes we go to far-flung areas and journalists can't simply get there. How do then we tell our stories? Because I welcome as well the issue of an SABC policy being reviewed. But we need to talk together as well as all of us. What is paid for interview? How do we describe it? Because I've taken journalists as far as Las Vegas, as far as Brazil, and not even SABC journalists, private institutions. So what do we call that? Do we call that paid interview? What is it? How then do we go forward in order to be able to meet each other halfway? So I am saying right now, we need this discussion. We need to talk to each other, because I know of a broadcaster at one stage, they had stories about an infrastructure project. I won't say their name here, but they know themselves. At that time, they were vilified as well. Also, they were criticized for that because they had not done what the SABC as well hasn't done. So we are saying that, you know, this is new, it's not happening, we can't do it. And the simple reason that the SABC did not do was to say the program was not paid for. Was paid for. So I want to challenge all of us for that discussion instead of us trying to now point fingers at each other, because media needs the resources, whether you are at SABC, whether you are at ANN7, you need the resources. I need you to come to my stories even if I am in mood. But if now I'm told that I cannot do certain things, it becomes very difficult. You look at an area like Bizana, for instance. There's only the SABC around there, and it's in Mthatha. There's no ANN7. There's no ENCA. What do I do? Usually, I pay for interviews. So what are we going to do? That's the discussion I would like us to have going forward.
And do you see this as an irregular, wasteful expenditure in that the minister would have had the platform for free in this case?
It can't be our issue because we followed all our processes. There's nothing that was untoward here. We followed our processes, we've always done and pay for interviews. So I am saying and pay for media space. Another issue that I found very disturbing. People are also questioning the amount. Space in media is very expensive. And today we have forgotten that airtime is expensive. Today we have forgotten that a space in a newspaper, a pager, it can cost you up to 500,000. So those are the discussions that I want us to have. The SABC says as well it's going to refund us. I'm saying as well, it also assisted me. One of the things that I wanted to do with this project was to have a memory repository of the minister. I need somebody to produce that. And actually this money came from savings that I did last year because I work closely with GCIS. So all I'm saying is that we need to start looking at ourselves. We need to be honest. We need to stop the hypocrisy.
And when can we start these processes of engaging with the media and actually meeting that level where we understand that because there is no ANN7 in a particular part of the country, and then we have the situation where you are able to help us to come through and all of that. When will we start that process?
I've always started it. This is not the first time. I've said to you that I had taken journalists when we won an award in Las Vegas. I did. When we went to Brazil, I took journalists. When we went to Mozambique, I took journalists. I paid for those things because I want people to know and see our stories. That's why I'm saying that it must also come from yourselves. I don't know. Maybe SANEF, maybe GCIS, I don't know. But I think there's a call for us to look at ourselves and how we do certain work. You know, I was called a lot of names. They were hurting. And I'm saying as well that I remember when the Dubai government wanted to make Dubai as a tourism industry, a tourism destination. They used to take journalists from around the world. I was part of that delegation. I was working for City Press. They took us to the best hotels. They let us sleep in travel first class Emirates. You know, they did all those things, trying to be creative in making sure that we experience that. So I am saying, let us not stifle creativity. Let's talk about how we can do things and do things right.
And now you spoke about being called names. What is your response to the Democratic Alliance calling for the minister to be held personally liable for the payment?
They don't know the facts. They are hearing from everybody. And I don't want to get into the space of the Democratic Alliance. The minister must talk about the space of the DA, not me.
All right. I'm going to go back to Keza Khanyago, who joins us. How does SABC hope to rebuild its image after this much-hyped fiasco?
I don't think this has got anything to do with the rebuilding of the image. We have indicated in our statement that we are acknowledging the wrong that was done by the SABC. And we are putting measures in place to deal with it. But if you read the statement, we also clearly indicate there that the new current affairs of our SABC has been is not part of this whole thing. And the fact that we're focusing a lot on the editorial policy implementation related to news and current affairs.
Yes.
And we did not check on the entertainment side of the business. And that is why we are going to strengthen that part and make sure that we deal with this. People must understand the acknowledgement of what went wrong is purely on the basis of the SABC and what we did or did not do.
Yes. And when can the public expect the new drafted editorial policy for public comment?
You will remember that this process was started a long time ago. We went to all over the country. We have consulted almost all the stakeholders. At this present moment, we are collating the information that we gathered when we had the road show and the comments that were sent to us. And after that, we are going to then put that draft out for the public to look at it again and comment. And then when everybody has commented, we'll finalize it and then send it to customers.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. That was SABC spokesperson Keza Khanyago, just giving us more details. And we also had in studio Lumka Olifant, Bathabile Dlamini spokesperson, joining us in studio, just giving us more details as we know that the South African Broadcasting Corporation's board has admitted that the broadcaster breached its editorial policies over a paid interview with Social Development Minister Bathabile Dlamini. Thank you very much for coming through.